Hey guys, it's your boy Sir and in the last episode, first off, I actually would just want to address the channel growth because I was not expecting that. I was ill for about 2 days. I was having some migraines and stuff, and I came back and my channel's exploded compared to what it was before. I've multiplied my subscribers by 10, and I know that's not much considering it's only 100 and something, but I really appreciate the support. And I guess YouTube started kind of recommending me and stuff, so I'm really glad. It's really nice to see all the positive comments and stuff and all the feedback, and it's really good. It actually motivates me quite a lot. So yeah, thank you guys a lot for that. But despite all that soppy stuff, let's actually get started with the story. So we're coming back from the last part where we saw Deku actually complete the UA entrance exam and get in with a really respectable score. 84 villain points and 30 rescue points, only coming second to One For All boosted Bakugo, which some of you guys really liked and some of you guys really didn't. But I'm actually going to justify that a little bit further on in this what if part. But he got 155 villain points. Well, no rescue points because he didn't really rescue anyone, but he got 155 villain points. Stupid amount. He has two really powerful quirks in there. So we're going to get on to after the UA entrance exams, and Deku's gone ahead, he's opened this, and he's just internally screaming with joy. He finally gets back to his daily routine after that of, meditation and physical training. So he meets with Aang in his mind to actually start to learn airbending a little bit more. Since he started with the basics, that was the whole sludge villain thing where he was rushing to go actually learn quickly. But he's starting to get the grasp of it now. And, after his image training today, he decides to test out a new technique that he's been taught by Aang. So this is the air scooter technique that Aang was really proud of teaching since he actually created it. So he was told to jump into the air, cross his legs, and create an expanding spinning ball of air underneath him. So this goes sour rather quickly, but not in a bad way. And you'll see why in a moment. So Deku jumps up and he spins the air, but he spins it way too fast. And he actually ends up caving into the earth like a human drill, creating this small crater in the ground. Now, if any of you guys have watched Naruto, you may actually recognize this as being similar to the Rasengan, the signature move of Naruto once he's learnt it. And Deku realizes the potential and power of it, and proceeds to actually recreate that small spinning ball in his hands. And he even compresses it further into a smaller shape and rotates it even faster to create a more precise, more powerful path. And slowly, he starts to refine this a little bit more. And finally, he decides it's time to test out his new creation. So he edges towards a tree and decides, okay, well, since that last time created a crater, since this one's a bit more powerful, I really don't want to be near this one. So he decides to push it out and maintain the spinning ball as it's going through the air. So he stands a few meters away from this tree and pushes the ball away. But he doesn't actually push it this time, he just releases it from his hands, allowing it to move as it pleases. He only puts a small amount of forward momentum, assuming that it's going to move forwards due to the rotation. However, it doesn't, it just moves forwards ever so slowly. And Deku's a bit disappointed, and he's still maintaining it and just watching to see what's going to happen. He's expecting it just to hit the tree, cause a little bit of damage and just dissipate. But instead, he hears a sound like a chainsaw and watches the tree get this massive spherical hole cut into the center as the wind cuts through the bark of the tree like a hot knife through butter. Deku retries the move, excited, and this time he earthbends a giant pillar and compresses it further until it becomes really hard, almost metal-like, and he charges up this unnamed wind attack. After a few seconds of increasing the rotation speed and compressing and gathering more air into the attack, Deku uses all of his force this time to push the bullet out, recoiling himself backwards and up into the air. And he watches the attack shred the solid stone and embed itself into the ground, creating an even larger crater this time, as he's flying backwards from the sheer force of it. Before Deku can fall and hit the ground, he uses another trick that he was taught and kicks himself a cushion of air underneath his legs, flips himself upright, and slowly touches back down to the ground. After a few hours of thinking, Deku decides to name this first hero move that he's created, and he names it Cyclone Bullet. It's a pretty nice name. And Deku really quite likes it since he's actually come up with it and he's kind of nerding out about his attack. And he writes down like, the details and stuff and starts to practice it, every so often. So a short while passes and Deku's continuing his training and refining that attack. And finally the first day of his time at UA High arrives. So Bakugo's a bit more respectful in this training, in this timeline and after his training with All Might, and doesn't actually start an argument with Ida. Surprise, surprise, it's shocking, but Bakugo isn't volatile, and to put it kind of nicely, Bakugo isn't a complete and utter tool. So, besides being a bit temperamental, he's actually quite nice. He's a little bit, reserved and a little bit temperamental, but he's okay. So Aizawa walks in and sees his class, or sons and daughters of pro heroes, the top scorer on the entrance exam, Bakugo, and that anomalous kid with 4 powerful quirks, Deku. He's interested by quite a lot of them and sees potential, but he wants to make sure. So Aizawa introduces himself and instructs everyone to get dressed into their PE uniforms and meet him in the yard for a special exam. The kick being that whoever fails is expelled. So Deku isn't as nervous as he was in the original time. Having a greater control over his powers and lining up for the first test, he's actually fairly confident. So the first test being the 50-meter dash, he, waits for a second to see how everyone else is going to do. Now Bakugo looks at Deku and walks up towards the starting line. Aizawa says go, and Bakugo in a flash puts One for All into his legs, using full cowling 10% as we mentioned in the previous episode, and pushes himself forwards with his explosions. In a flash, he's already at the finish line, and Aizawa's timer says that took him 3/4 of a second. Deku is extremely impressed and shocked, as he knew Bakugo has a powerful explosion quirk, but he didn't know that he actually had this much physical strength. Now Deku's kind of intrigued by this, because just like Bakugo kind of suspected that something was up with Deku in the original timeline, Deku suspects there's something kind of up with Bakugo. And Bakugo can tell this, but he doesn't really care. He just brushes it off and goes, yeah, you'll never understand how powerful I am. I'm your rival, but don't get it wrong. I'm far superior to you'll ever be. So the next test was the strength test. And Deku did a little bit better due to a longer period of training on his physical strength, and he got a grip strength of about 70 kilograms, which is fairly respectable. And then comes the long jump. So Deku did the long jump, but he used earthbending to actually push himself forwards off from a platform, and airbending to hover until clearing the sandbox, similar to how he's going to do on the 50 meters. So he comes back to the 50-meter test now that it's freed up, and he actually does something similar to what he did for the long jump. However, he does a slightly different move. This time, Deku tries to copy Bakugo's move a little bit, by pushing himself out of the earth, but also by using firebending to create an explosion underneath his feet. So this pushes him forwards and actually does a fairly good job of copying Bakugo, getting double his time, but that's still 1.5 seconds, placing him second overall in the exam. So after that, the anticipated ball throw. Bakugo looks at Deku and just states, watch this, Midoriya. We'll see who's better. And he activates his full cowling again at 10% and throws the ball as hard as he can. And just as it leaves his fingertip, Bakugo smirks a bit and uses his explosions to push the ball even further with a narrow stream of explosions, moving the ball at a gigantic velocity and causing it to land 1,500 meters away, 1.5 kilometers, almost a mile. Bakugo smirks at Deku again and walks away fairly confident, hands behind his head. Deku's turn finally comes up, and he's determined to beat Kachan's score. He says that to him, and he's like, Kachan, you're going down. I'm going to beat you today, no matter what. Deku remembers the new attack that he came up with, and a thought crosses his mind. First off, he takes the sweat, which sounds a bit gross, but sweat bending, it's a thing. He takes the sweat and actually turns it into a vapor and cushions the ball with it. Then, Deku actually starts to rotate air, just like he did for his Cyclone Bullet attack. And he rotates it for a full 5 seconds, creating a nice compact sphere of this kind of vapor and air rotating around the ball. And he's made it so there's a decent amount of forward momentum, but he's pulling it back at the moment. He shouts, "Watch this!" Kacchan looks dead in the eyes and releases the ball in midair. The ball doesn't really move anywhere, but after a second, it's just floating there. And he's really confused. Kacchan looks really, really confused, but Deku's still confident. He pushes his arms back and uses earth, air, and fire bending. He uses earth bending to push himself forwards a bit. And he uses airbending and firebending in opposite hands, almost like a Kamehameha wave, and spirals them into the ball, the cushion of air and water protecting it from the heat of the fire, and launches the ball forward with an absolutely tremendous speed, even faster than Bakugo's, actually causing it to read out an even higher score than Bakugo's, 1,607 meters, 1,607 meters. Deku yells in excitement, as the rest of the tests really don't go with much change. Deku's still pretty happy with his score and beating, Bakugo on that test. He's pretty happy with that. At the end of it all, the results come in and, it goes kind of the same, actually. Like in the anime, Momo's still first. And then what happens is after that, Bakugo comes next, so Todoroki doesn't actually come second. Bakugo comes afterwards, since he's now got 1-4 and his explosion core. Then Todoroki comes, then Deku, who actually doesn't come last, since he's got fairly good control over it. And then the rest of the order continues as normal, but without Deku being at the bottom. So instead, Minetta's at the bottom, and actually, since Aizawa sees so much potential in his class, he decides not to expel Minetta in this timeline. Now, I could say that, there's all these excuses behind it, but to be honest, it's basically just plot convenience for not having to remove Minetta out of the stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to be honest with you guys there. But, I hope you guys enjoyed this part, even with the slight laziness there, because that's pretty much it. So, yeah, again, I really appreciate the support I got on the last video and all the videos before that, actually. It's been quite phenomenal, actually. I really wasn't expecting it, and I'm really glad you guys are enjoying it. So, yeah, that's pretty much the end of this part. If you guys have any questions, anything else, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification thing. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next part. Actually, for my next part, I'm probably going to be starting another series. So if you guys have any suggestions for that, actually leave them in the comments. And I'm planning to kind of create like a little collated series with a bunch of those ideas kind of averaged out into one idea that I hope you guys will all enjoy. At the moment, I have one on my mind, but I'm not exactly sure about it. So if you guys have any suggestions, yeah, just leave them in the comments and I'll get to them. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Thank you guys for watching. Again, do all the good stuff. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. All right, bye guys.